swapping is akin to petrol pumps for EVs. India as a country is predominantly into two-wheeler and three-wheelers in EVs. In fact, 70% of our EV shares is two-wheelers and three-wheelers, right? And these type of vehicles are the most apt for battery swapping.
When we started with the single station in Janakpuri, the first swapping used to happen on a whiteboard. We used to write down which battery which driver had taken.
This solution has really transformed the lives of people where time is actually equal to money.
There's just one thing which comes into play, and that is first principle thinking. That's how we have built this startup.
Vehicles today are more than a means of transportation, and this sector that we are operating in is a prime example of that.
We have been working on new technologies on a daily basis, like facial recognition, which we are trying to build for our customers, easing their experience in swaps.
We also talked about India Stack and UPI, Aadhaar, etc. While many companies are making use of it for digital first customers, we are probably the first ones who are encouraging this adoption across this section of society as well.
A lot of interesting stuff happening in the product domain, right, at Battery Smart. A surge in job creation, especially with respect to green jobs, right? So what do you think are the new roles that EV sector is giving birth to?
Building for our drivers is a very humbling experience personally for me. At such a large scale in countries such as India, nobody has done this before.
What one message would you want to give to the young minds who are wanting to make a switch to the EV industry? Welcome to another episode of The Smart Switch, a show where we deep dive into the world of electric vehicles and also explore the innovations shaping the future of mobility. I'm your host, Tanmeet Kaur Rahuja, and in today's episode, we are going to put spotlight on battery swapping, an innovative solution which is probably going to transform the way we drive. Today, battery swapping is solving some of the biggest challenges facing EV adoption, right from long charging time to range anxiety. And joining us today, we have two incredible guests who are not only part of this EV revolution, but also driving it. First up, we have Mr. Tejasav Khattar, also known as TK. He's been one of the early hires at Battery Smart, working on the first core to now helping build to what is now a fully grown network of more than 1,500 swap stations. Alongside TK, we also have Mr. Vaibhav Sambre, the brilliant mind leading the product team at Battery Smart. He has a strong foundation from IIT Bombay, and his work experience is spanning across various industries, right from telecom to gaming to now the EV sector. Welcome both of you, and today would like to hear from you the science behind battery swapping and what it takes to build a robust battery swapping network. Starting with you, TK, first. You've been with Battery Smart right from inception, right? You worked on the initial first app to now everybody knows you what role you play in scaling the entire network, right? With more than 80,000 drivers, more than 1,500 touch points, which are our battery swapping stations. So what has been the journey like for you?
Thank you for having me here first. The journey has been incredible. So we started in the month of June in 2020, and we started from a single station. And at that time, I wrote the first code myself, which was just an MVP, a partner application, and a CRM system.
What is MVP?
It's a minimum viable product. It was just used to record swaps and have 8 applications which are running in the production ecosystem. I started with the engineering team first, and currently I'm leading the data science and analytics team as well.
Coming to you, Vaibhav, so transitioning from gaming, telecom to now EV must have been quite a shift, right? So how did the previous experiences help shape your approach here?
Yeah, first of all, again, thanks for having me and thank you for the brilliant introduction as well. I think all the experience that I had in telecom gaming helped me hone the basic skills of product management, which is getting things done, knowing the business and the tech to a decent degree, not inside out, but to a decent degree. And, transforming all this knowledge into product features that our customers love, right? So I think once these horizontals are set for every product manager, it's just a matter of plugging in domains and applying these skills across different domains, right? So EV, as you rightly said, is a very challenging domain. And for me, it was like a complete shift, 180-degree shift. And I had to really first, get my hands dirty, understand everything about the EV sector. And now, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, I'm still learning, but I think I have some basic knowledge about EVs so that I can craft wonderful products for our customers.
Can you help us explain how does battery swapping work and how is it different from traditional charging?
I think battery swapping as a solution has evolved from a combination of various factors. I think two most important factors that I can think of is time leverage and economic leverage, right? So I think swapping is akin to petrol pumps for EVs, right? So you go to a swapping station, you take a charge battery, and you just zip along. This solution has really transformed the lives of people where time is actually equal to money, right? So delivery folks or e-rickshaw folks, for them, having that time saved 2-3 hours means literally extra earnings for them for the day. And also economic, because swapping eliminates the need of owning the battery inside the EV. Many of the times that is like one of the largest chunks of cost that you can have in EV. I think battery swapping as a whole is quite suited for countries like Southeast Asia, India, Africa.
So double clicking on the same point, while other countries like let's say US, China, Taiwan have their own share of learnings, experiences with battery swapping, right? As far as a country like India is concerned, what do you think? How successful is it going to be?
I think India is in a very, sweet spot here because we have the infra as well as the manpower to make battery swapping a success, right? Because battery swapping typically, tends to be a lot more operational than simple, charge and go, right? So India in particular, we have the right mix of customers who can adopt this technology. We have the right economic environment, with the government subsidizing and coming out with new policies every day for EVs. And at the same time, we have the right appetite for this technology because, like I said, time and economics play a very important role in a very general Indian family, right? So I think a combination of these factors makes battery swapping probably one of the most explosive use cases for EVs in India. And I think one more thing that I would like to add is that India as a country is predominantly into two-wheeler and three-wheelers in EVs. In fact, 70% of our EV shares is two-wheelers and three-wheelers, right? And these type of vehicles are the most apt for battery swapping. So I think this mix of supply also, primes India for the prime candidate, as the prime candidate for battery swap.
Got it. And in fact, more than 56% of our EV sales are coming from the EV two-wheeler segment.
Yeah.
The most impressive part of it that we've been able to scale in such a short span of time. We have a pan-India network, right? So what do you think is the role of engineering team?
When we started with the single station in Janakpuri, the first swapping used to happen on a whiteboard. We used to write down which battery which driver had taken. It was good. It worked for a few days, not more than a month, because as the drivers kept on increasing because the demand was high, everyone wanted to load off not purchasing the battery, and we were doing it for them. So it was becoming difficult to maintain which driver took which battery. So that is when the need of technology came into play. It was required that we should record these swaps on a cell phone instead of just jotting it down on a whiteboard. So then we made the first application, a partner app, which was an Android application, used to record swap and serves these many customers. So that is how technology has evolved. And even at that time, it was just a single station. So movement of batteries was not that big of a challenge. Now procurement of batteries, moving batteries from one place to another, everything is required because we are currently live in 41 cities. So we have to rebalance batteries between multiple cities as well. So if technology is not into play, then we cannot track these assets. And these assets are quite costly. So tracking and management of these assets is required through tech.
And considering the fact that there was no prior precedent in India, no other case study, no other startup had done a similar kind of work, how challenging was it back then?
It was challenging back then, it is challenging today as well. So every day we face new challenges earlier, but to deal with these challenges, there's just one thing which comes into play, and that is first principle thinking. Yeah. So that's how we have built this startup. You rightly mentioned there's no case study to look after. There's no other company which we can replicate the inventory or anything from. We have built this company from first principle thinking. We built a few things which we figured out later that this is not useful. But to reach at this scale, we built whatever we thought and had to scrap a few things as well.
And learn from our own failures.
Yes.
This industry that we are in, it's fast evolving with rapid pace of innovation, right? How does Battery Smart ensure that we stay ahead of our curve in terms of product development?
I think TK was being very humble when he said that, there are applications for movement, partner, etc. I think technology team as a whole and technology prowess as a whole has penetrated across departments, across functions and Battery Smart. And, TK has had a very good role to play there. Coming to product development, I think what actually represents battery swapping is really comes from a underdeserved or underrepresented sections of society, right? So I think a combination of smart thinking and empathetic thinking is what drives our product teams ahead.
With EV sales projected to increase eightfold by this decade, and there are also projections that there'll be a surge in job creation, especially with respect to green jobs, right? And the estimate says that around 5 million direct jobs and 30 million indirect jobs by this decade. So, what do you think are the new roles that EV sector is giving birth to, and what sort of skill sets are you guys looking for while you guys hire?
Apart from your general prowess, in the departments that you are looking to be hired for, right? So if it is tech, maybe your coding skills, and how do you make sure that documentation is proper. If it is product, how do you make sure that you empathize with the customer, translate this knowledge into product features, etc., etc., right? Coming to the roles part, I think roles will evolve as this industry evolves. Right now, there are roles popping up in battery tech. There are roles popping up in vehicle tech, right? There are roles, popping up in traditional electric engineering fields that were, probably considered as quote unquote core jobs, right? So I think those sectors are in demand right now because India is in a phase where we are actually making EVs, adopting EVs, embracing the revolution of technology efficiencies in EV. I think we will probably have jobs that are over-indexed in operations, right? So probably managing a charging station or managing or servicing a fleet of EVs, right? Or running operations like deliveries, etc., basis EVs, right? So I think over the next 10 years, the job curve will switch from technology and innovation oriented jobs to more of operations and running things jobs, right? But I think the basic skill sets of jobs will remain the same. Probably people who catch up to this domain faster will take advantage of this revolution that is happening right now.
Why should a tech enthusiast join an EV sector?
A tech enthusiast should join an EV sector if they want to experiment on new things. So we have been working on new technologies on a daily basis. Like one of them is facial recognition, which we are trying to build for our customers for easing their experience in swaps. And there are other things, not just from the software perspective, from the hardware perspective as well. Since we have a lot of batteries, around 2 lakh batteries in the ecosystem, there is batteries made of multiple components like BMS. So we are looking for firmware engineers.
And what exactly is BMS?
It's a battery management system which governs how the battery would function. So there's a opportunity in the firmware domain, like building firmwares for the battery management system. And even because we have multiple manufacturer batteries, so merging all the capabilities into a single firmware so that it can be used with multiple manufacturers, opportunities which are open in the market.
And how big is your team?
So currently the team, including engineering and data science, is around 50 plus folks. One of our, like Vaibhav mentioned, like data-driven things. So one of our principles at BatterySmart is also core values at BatterySmart is like data-driven decisions. So we are sitting on a large amount of data. Like every battery pings every 30 seconds. So a lot of opportunities come into the data domain for data analysis and from the data science perspective.
I think tech enthusiasts should join EVs to work for BatterySmart. I think summary. Yeah.
And I think we always look out to hire, be it product team, be it data engineering team, and maybe other domains at BatterySmart.
I think good companies make space for good talent. So yeah, I think we are always on lookout for good talent.
Yeah, that's so true. So TK, for any operations, I think data is the heartbeat, right? At BatterySmart, what are the various challenges that you've witnessed, maybe on a daily basis, and how does data science help solve these challenges?
When we are expanding our stations, so there are 3 things which come into play. One is supply, other is demand, and then the third one is batteries. Each one of them is governed by data. So to build the supply, we need to know where, by data-driven decisions, that where we should open the station so that it does not become non-profitable. Because at the end, the person who is opening a station is also investing some amount. So we need to take decisions based on, for demand as well, based on data. The other is batteries, like I mentioned previously, that every battery pings every 30 seconds. So it also helps us take decisions based on the data which it generates. For supply, we have been monitoring where to open stations through customer footfalls, where people are driving based on the driving patterns of our own drivers in the ecosystem.
So it also helps us locate the driver hubs, right?
Driver hubs. Then at the same time, we monitor which all places and stations there is choking. That driver has to wait for a longer duration. Since we are into battery swapping, we always want that a driver should not wait
Right.
and he should get an instant swap. To facilitate that, we always
And that is
monitor
why a driver would come to battery swapping overcharging.
overcharging. That's why we monitor where all we are facing choking at which stations, and we do rebalancing of demand and sending charged batteries to those locations at that specific time, so that drivers don't have to wait in queues and have to, like, if they have to wait, they won't earn in that period.
Right. And that's a
That's
loss of time
that's a loss
and
of
money
time.
for them.
We have 3 tools in place to optimize our network. One is an expansion X, which is used to find locations where we should open our stations based on the previous data which we have, based on footfall data of people, based on choking at stations. And the other is Demand X, which helps us find locations where the demand field executive should go to find more drivers. Then there's a lead grading system. So lead grading system is used like all the expansion managers, those who bring out leads. We cannot just open each and every place as a station. So first, those leads are graded through a lead grading system, which tells whether we should open a station or not, based on if that person will reach a profitability within a certain period of time. If it is not profitable for them, they won't operate it with full will.
Got it. So basically, that's an additional layer of check.
Additional layer of check. And if a location fails a lead grading check, we do not open that because we do not want to go into a situation where we have to close it in a shorter duration of time.
And how about batteries? So since batteries is the backbone of this entire network, right? We thrive on batteries. That's one of the biggest asset. Coming on to batteries and data, how do you think is predictive analytics helping us demand forecasting for batteries?
Since these batteries are in operations and everything which is being used on ground can go into service. So one is if we just leave it to luck to get to know when the battery would come into service. So we can never predict how many batteries extra we would be needed. So we use predictive analytics to know if there is something wrong with the battery. And we preemptively bring those batteries back to our warehouses, get it repaired, and send it back into the ecosystem.
Got it.
So this helps in planning for service batteries. This helps in planning for new demand. Like if we have to add these many drivers this month, so first we need to know where we will be adding drivers. And then we would be sending those batteries at those specific locations because there's a cost which is associated to movement as well. So we do not want to store batteries at a single location and then incur separate cost to move those batteries to another location because those won't be used here.
Got it.
Every idle battery days is a loss for us. So we always optimize our utilization of these batteries by replacing it for services or adding new drivers.
Got it. And I think that's also how we ensure that all the battery swapping stations are always well stocked. And whenever there's a driver, it also, I think, adds on to improving the customer experience because they don't have to wait.
Yes.
Coming to you, Vaibhav. So as far as data science is concerned, how do you think they're helping in maintaining and monitoring the battery health?
I'm stepping into TK's domain here, but I think battery is an asset and every asset requires maintenance, right? I think so. We have built intelligent systems like TK was telling, which asset needs maintenance at what time. Our battery pings or sends out data regarding its location, its state of charge, its voltage, etc., to us every 30 seconds, and we actually store that data. We also store the data, and then we analyze the data actually to figure out what is it that needs maintenance, and then if we say that okay, this battery has crossed a specific threshold and it would need maintenance either by an engineer going there or bringing that battery back to us to our warehouse, I think we then deploy manpower accordingly. And I think what I would want to add is that at such a large scale in countries such as India, nobody has done this before, right? All the tests that you will find on internet are probably done in controlled environment where the technicians leave the battery in a room and then analyze its parameters and then they predict. Yeah, then they run simulations, right? But I think doing it out in the real world in a country like ours, which has sunshine, rains, some places are cold, and there are some places that are dusty, right? So I think pulling this off at this scale with accurate data models is something that we are really proud of.
Vaibhav, now I would want to deep dive further into the product development cycle. So, battery swapping as a concept, it's still relatively new in India, right? So, how did you validate the product market fit early on, and what were the various lessons learned?
Product market fit actually existed in India, right? And there was a need of a company to come and fill this gap. And early on, of course, when we are creating a category, there are certain steps that we need to take, and we need to really focus on customer education. We need to focus on getting things right and making customers understanding the value of it. And I think that was done brilliantly by the early team, right? TK included. And I think now the product market fit is like a virtuous cycle for us. So any new city that we open, I think most of our demand comes via referrals from other folks, right? So I think we are very lucky that India has this latent demand, right? And we are fortunate that our team is able to convert this demand into, real drivers driving for us.
Got it. And can you walk us through the process of collecting and implementing user feedback into a product development cycle?
User feedback, nothing beats talking to the user actually, right? So I think a lot of emphasis is given on the fact that, hey, can you talk to the user and understand what is it that he or she is facing, or what is it that he or she wants to improve in the product, right? So we have regular catch-ups with our customers, both drivers, partners, operators, right? And field visits are always encouraged. I think Battery Smart has a dedicated program for folks to go on field and study what is going wrong and right. And I think that is the most valuable feedback that we have. Apart from that, I think we also have regular focus group discussions in design. We have our analytics tools, events set up across different product journeys, which help us give us a quantitative estimate of how the users are behaving en masse, right? And other than that, for collecting user feedback, or I would say for making ourselves open to suggestions, we also have a large scale, gathering of drivers known as driver samvad, wherein we call all these drivers to a specific location, ask them relevant questions, take their feedbacks, unfiltered feedbacks, right? And similarly, we have partner sammelans across different cities in India, wherein we understand what is it that, that is happening on the ground, what is it that will help them grow their business. And I think that is it built into our, culture of business. So Battery Smart actually encourages, these connects with customers. And it is those feedbacks that help us build a better product for them.
Got it. And I really like the fact that we're also doing a lot in terms of community building, because
Yeah.
Driver Samvad, Station Partner Sammelan, the industry first initiatives that we've been taking. And it's not only to, meet and greet, but also help understand what are their pain points and what are the challenges and how can we, help them address these challenges.
Yep.
Moving further, since we talked about drivers, a lot of our consumers and drivers are not tech savvy, right? They would not know how to use a smartphone. They might not even have a smartphone, right? So how do you guys still ensure that these drivers and our consumers are able to access battery swapping services? They still can get product updates. They can, have a status on their payments and more.
Yeah, I think building for our drivers is a very humbling experience personally for me, because previously, and I think most of Indian product managers build for folks that are living in a digital cocoon, right? Yeah. Which take internet for granted, which take probably high class mobile services for granted, right? And when you step outside this digital cocoon and build for people who actually have their trust on humans on the ground, right? Normally we call these folks edge cases, right? That, okay, what if a customer goes to our shop and transacts directly? Okay, this is an edge case, right? So there are many products which are not even built for these edge cases. Talk about Flipkart, talk about Amazon, right? They do not support people going to their shops, right? So I think building for such customers whom the digital first users consider as edge cases is a very humbling and a very, I would say, revealing experience for me, because you need to shift your focus from an internet-based trust economy to a human-based trust economy, right? So how do we make sure that drivers on the ground have the right information, are in contact with right folks, and at the same time are able to enjoy all the services that probably internet-first users enjoy? Right. So to address these facts, I think a lot of our product development happens via audio-visual impetus, right? So we have posters in our partner stations, right? Most of our products also have a manual angle, wherein these manual angles are typically not considered edge cases and are built keeping this particular, things in mind. At the same time, to ensure that people who don't have mobile phones get full access to our services, we have built smart cards, which are essentially NFC powered cars with a UPI QR printed on them, so that the drivers can use them to collect payments via the UPI QR, as well as tap them on our NFC machines to take a swap. Other than that, we have a check-in machine that is deployed across 70 locations right now in India. And that check-in machine actually enables the driver to have that audio-visual feedback. So the driver can tap the card, see which batteries are getting scanned, see how much the driver has to pay, right? And, it sounds very simple, right? But once you go to the field, install this machine and, tell the drivers how it works, the smile on the driver's face actually, means a lot, because that tells you that how such a simple thing can empower these people. And I think that is the real joy of building products for such customers.
And did you witness any uptake in retention?
Yes, I think what I experienced on the field is that drivers are quite curious about this, right? And they want to try it out. So are our partner stations. I think they feel that this will, bring an increase in demand. And wherever these stations have been deployed, or say these machines have been deployed, we have witnessed an uptake in digital transactions, right? I think too early to see retention metric as of now, because retention metric we typically calculate for 3 months or 6 months. But yeah, I think there is definitely an uptake in digital adoption. Regarding these smart cards, I think we are probably one of the first companies to ensure large scale adoption, of such a feature. At least I don't recollect any, EV company doing this for their customers. And we also talk a lot about India Stack and UPI, Aadhaar, etc. And while many companies are making use of it for digital first customers, I think we are probably the first ones who are encouraging this adoption across this section of society as well.
But I think a lot of interesting stuff happening in the product domain, right, at Battery Smart. So Vaibhav, product management is one of the most sought after domains in today's time. What do you think, and why do you think should a product manager join the EV sector?
I think one of the fundamental attributes of a product manager is being comfortable with ambiguity and taking decisions that are mostly right? And I think EV sector kind of gives a practice arena for all these things, right? Because EV sector right now is unorganized and growing, right? So most of the time you will be in an environment wherein right decisions sound very far-fetched, right? But how do you make an advantage of this situation and make sure that what you're building is right for the customers, right? Is something that, EV will teach you a lot, right? Other than that, I think if you enjoy working in a fast-paced environment, rapid tech innovations happening, and at the same time building for customers that are probably adopting this technology at the first place and setting an example for others to follow. If you love working in such an environment, I think EV is probably one of the few sectors apart from crypto that really will embody all these values.
So Vaibhav, how do you envision the future of battery swapping, especially with rapid advancements in fast charging?
I think advancement in not just charging but batteries is good for the ecosystem, right? Because it is giving advantage to customers, and anything that benefits customers is benefit up to the company as well, right? So with fast charging coming in, with battery tech evolving, I think we will probably see a shift in how charging or how swapping patterns are followed. Maybe we will get into a battery as a swapping kind of a model, a battery as a service kind of a model, where we give away a battery, the person uses it for a day, and then that cycle repeats, right? However, we also need to take into consideration the economic angle of this. So while these technologies are being built, they need to be affordable. They need to be built in such a way that masses can adopt them. And once that happens, I think swapping as an ecosystem will flow towards battery as a service.
So TK, recently Ministry of Power has also shared guidelines and acknowledged the fact that battery swapping is a viable alternative to charging, right? So what do you have to say on that? And how do you think both of them can coexist?
Yeah, battery swapping is an alternative to charging, but even if charging comes into place, as the quantity of vehicles is increasing, the charging spots wouldn't be growing at that scale. So that's why I believe both of them should coexist. And also in a battery swapping mechanism, it's easy to offload the maintenance of the batteries onto someone else. So in our scenario, like, drivers don't have to worry about battery servicing. You cannot park, or there's no real estate for all the vehicles to park at a single point of time and get charged. So I believe both of them would coexist. Also, battery swapping as an alternative is beneficial for customers who cannot afford to purchase the battery, because the 50% of the cost in the electric vehicle is of the battery.
Right, got it. All right. And Vaibhav, in terms of battery swapping as a sector, What do you think is the next major milestone?
I think next milestone for this sector is market penetration, both vertical and horizontal. Vertical in the sense that right now, of all the EV vehicles that are being sold, two-wheelers and three-wheelers, the market penetration of swapping as a technology is less than 5%, right? So we need to make sure that more vehicles are compatible, right? And we need to make sure that more vehicles are able to access this technology. So I think even in this swapping, for vehicles, there is a large scope of growth because 95% of the market is still untapped. And I think tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 towns are going to drive the next phase of growth for this sector. In terms of horizontal penetration, I think we have zeroed down on travel or vehicles as a use case for swapping. But there are other use cases also where swapping or battery as a service can play its part. One is essentially round the clock enablement for energy. So in places where there are frequent power cuts and people don't want to own inverters, we can enable round the clock access to energy. And hospitals, telecom towers, even events, wedding events, right? I think these are the prime contenders for battery as a service as a model, because I mean, in a nutshell, wherever charging time or charging economics provides a leverage, battery swapping will exist and will thrive, right? So horizontal expansion into more use cases is also an area where this technology will advance.
As of now, we've seen battery swapping accelerating the adoption of EV sales, right? Especially as seen in electric 2 and 3-wheeler segment. What do you think about other form factors like 4-wheelers?
I think battery swapping as a technology can exist in all vehicles, right? Provided the manufacturers build the vehicles accordingly, right? So there are countries like China and Taiwan where battery swapping is done also in four-wheelers, right? Like TK also mentioned, EV in India is a very complex problem because at one side you have charging, which demands real estate, power consumption, maintenance. One side you have swapping, which is quick and easy, but has to be executed perfectly in an operational environment, right? So I think a mix of these two things will determine which vehicles will now adopt this technology, right? So yes, four-wheelers are a very prime contender because typically a four-wheeler owner will want to swap or charge his battery at the earliest and move on, right? Especially in leisure trips. I think other prime contenders are vehicles that are used for services like buses, right? Because I think these vehicles typically don't need that quick thing. They can swap the battery at night and be functional, right? So and that will heavily reduce the cost for government as well. So right now we call it market mix modeling. So we really need to understand places where real estate is cheap, probably charging will take its precedence, but the real estate also has to be close to demand, and then that makes real estate expensive, right? So it's probably a right combination of all these factors which will determine whether swapping or charging takes precedence in a particular area.
Got it. And I think vehicles today are more than a means of transportation, right? I think they're increasingly becoming a piece of complex and advanced technology. And this sector that we are operating in is a prime example of that. Before we wrap up, what one message would you want to give to the young minds who are wanting to make a switch to the EV industry? Starting with you, TK, first.
I would say they should join the EV industry if they want to make the real world impact, as the data is increasing in this industry, and we would want smart minds who can build models and do analysis to make networks more efficient on a daily basis. And those people, those who want to work into the sustainability domain, so this sector also helps them contribute towards the sustainability angle in it. So I would want everyone to make the smart switch and contribute in the EV industry.
I think the one-liner remains the same as taking make the smart switch, right? I would like to probably give an example that relates to the young audience. So young audience sees reels that create FOMOs, right? You see reels of travel destinations, you see reels of business opportunities or Bitcoin that you have missed, right? I think this FOMO is happening right now in front of you, right? EV sector is at that nascent stage wherein you can jump on the bandwagon and really create a space for yourself, right? And apart from just product and tech, I think, this sector has enough room for marketers. You need, intelligent minds to make sure that this sector is appealing. It has enough or more than enough room for operations folks because the jobs will get into operations, right? So I think for that Instagram generation, I would say don't wait
For the netizens.
Yeah, for the netizens, right? I would say that don't be afraid of FOMO, be a part of the FOMO.
Oh,
right?
that's a good line.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Vaibhav. Thank you, TK, for being part of this lovely discussion. It was lovely to catch up with you guys and to understand deeper into what it takes to build a scalable and successful battle swapping network.
Thank you so much. I think thanks, Tanmeet, for this opportunity. Still feels unreal that I am in a podcast, but yeah, thanks for this.
And thank you to the lovely audience for staying connected with us. I hope you also enjoyed these insightful discussions and stories. Stay connected for more EV trends. And remember, the future of mobility is all about making the smart switch. Thank you.